Get ready to dive into the story. Let's jump right in! In a game involving a virtual world, somehow linked to the real world. Eternity. The opening scenes introduce the game and its mechanics to adventure-seeking players. While most players watch the scenes to gather full information about the game, one player decides to jump right in, paying little to no attention to the introductory sequences. This player believes that no respectable gamer should waste time on opening scenes. Instead, he thinks the best course of action is to enter the game quickly and experience its mechanics firsthand. Without taking any caution, or even naming his character, he leaps in. As soon as he enters, the game prompts a notification asking if he'd like to set a class. But, too focused on acting cool, he completely forgets about character creation and skips through it. After hastily designing his character's appearance, he moves on to the next hurdle, choosing a name. The system warns him that renaming is not allowed, so he has to choose carefully. Excitedly, he tries to go with the kindergarten's strongest, but the system rejects it, stating that he does not meet the age criteria for that name. Frustrated, he quickly tries another name, Winter. Just as he falls to the ground in Novus Village, determined to get a mission before other players can even log in, and confident in his own skills, he immediately scans his surroundings. Spotting an old man who looks like a typical quest giver, he approaches, ready to begin his adventure. As Winter approaches the old man and asks if he can be of any help, he is met with a response he wasn't prepared for. The old man scoffs in a condescending tone, belittling Winter as he questions whether he truly believes he can contribute to Novus Village. Then, without hesitation, the old man bluntly declares that Winter is not worthy of any mission, making it clear in the rudest way possible. Winter assumes the NPC is looking down on him simply because he's a newbie player, and he refuses to accept such disrespect. Determined to prove his strength, he insists on taking on a task. In response, the old man finally relents and assigns him a mission: to head to the village entrance and kill a slime. A system prompt appears, confirming the quest. Winter, eager to make the old man eat his words, pumps himself up. In his head, he praises himself, thinking, "If I hadn't been born, this village would have been left eternally defenseless." The pun was definitely intentional, given that the game's name is Eternity. Ready to begin, Winter checks his inventory. The only weapon available, a wooden stick, the classic newbie gear. With determination, he charges at the slime and swings the stick vigorously. But to his shock, the attack barely scratches it, inflicting a mere 5 points of damage. Instead of obliterating the slime as he had imagined, he only manages to enrage it. The creature retaliates with full force, landing a tendril counterattack that deals 50 points of damage, a staggering 10 times his own attack power. Shocked by the realization that a slime's attack is 10 times stronger than his own, Winter starts to understand why the old man had such a low opinion of new adventurers. Running away from the slime, he quickly hides, ashamed that he couldn't even defeat what he had assumed was the weakest enemy. As he catches his breath, Winter reassures himself that the other players are probably still watching the cutscenes. That means he might have enough time to think of a solution before more players arrive. Frustrated, he curses his luck, stuck on a slime in his very first game. Just then, he notices a bystander labeled by the system as a Novus Village soldier. From what he can tell, most soldiers in the game seem to be at least level 5, far stronger than him. Hoping for some guidance, he approaches the soldier to ask a few questions, but before he can even start a conversation, the soldier cuts him off with a blunt no. Winter is taken aback. First the old man, and now this soldier. Why does everyone in this village seem so rude to newcomers? The soldier Kaido then speaks again, his voice stern. Instead of answering Winter's questions, he tells him to first think about how to defend himself against slimes. Then, with a smirk, he adds, "If you want help, it'll cost you 10 gold coins." Hearing the soldier use the word adventurers confirms Winter's suspicion. New players are starting to log in. Wanting to strike a deal, he offers to pay just 1 gold coin for information, casually adding that if the price isn't right, he'll simply find someone else willing to trade advice for it. Kaido hesitates. He remembers what the village head had mentioned earlier. Adventurers would eventually start showing up, and there would be opportunities to make money off them. The only thing that puzzles him is why Winter arrives so late compared to the others. Still, 1 gold coin for a bit of advice is an incredible deal. As a soldier, Kaido only earns 50 silver coins per month, and since 1 gold coin is worth 100 silver, this single exchange would give him 2 months' worth of pay. Plus, new players don't fully understand the currency system yet. This might be the best opportunity he'll get. Realizing he can't let this chance slip away, Kaido calls Winter back, agreeing to his terms. Pretending to be convinced by Winter's persistence, he asks what exactly the young adventurer wants to know. Smirking in victory, Winter wastes no time and asks Kaido for advice. In return, he learns the basic sword skill and basic double hit, 2 abilities that help him master swordsmanship and deal double damage to enemies, though the latter comes with a cooldown period of 20 seconds. Armed with new knowledge and abilities, Winter feels 1 step closer to proving himself. Having spent all his coin teaching Winter, Kaido finally asks for his payment, only to be met with an unexpected problem. Winter informs him that he has no way to transfer money yet since he just entered the game, and the system hasn't fully activated for new players. Faced with this hurdle, Winter quickly comes up with a solution. He suggests writing an IOU, promising to pay Kaido as soon as he acquires the money. Kaido, however, sees through his scheming and isn't convinced. Frustrated, he proposes a more binding agreement, a contract stating that if Winter doesn't pay the 1 gold coin within a week, Kaido will hunt him down without mercy. After sealing the deal, Winter takes things a step further. He manages to convince Kaido to lend him 1 more gold coin in exchange for the soldier's equipment. The sword and uniform offer much better attack and defense power compared to what he had at the start, even though they belong to the lowest tier of gear, known as white tier. In this game, efficiency, rarity, and strength, whether of items, abilities, or even people, are ranked in different levels. The white tier is considered the weakest, especially compared to the powerful equipment found across the continent. The ranking system, in ascending order, goes from white to bronze, silver, gold, dark gold, spirit, earth, and finally, the highest tier, heaven. Despite his new gear being at the bottom of the ranking, Winter knows that even the smallest advantage could make a difference. Now that he has proper equipment, the slimes are no longer a threat. Determined to get his revenge, Winter heads straight for the village entrance. As he makes his way there, the game finally ushers in the new players, flooding Novus Village with adventurers. Seeing the growing crowd, he wastes no time and rushes toward the slime area, eager to seize his opportunity while he still has it. Armed with his old sword, Winter immediately activates his basic double-hit skill, dealing considerable damage to the slime. The creature retaliates furiously, but this time, things are different. Thanks to his improved defense power, the attack barely affects him. Seizing the opening, he strikes again and lands the finishing blow. With just 1 slime defeated, he earns 10 experience points and quickly realizes how much his new gear is helping. Encouraged by this, he turns his attention to the rest of the slimes. One after another, he cuts them down mercilessly, unleashing his pent-up frustration. As he continues his rampage, his experience points accumulate and soon, he reaches level 2. His HP, defense, and attack power increase by 100 points, making him even more efficient in battle. With this newfound strength, hunting slimes becomes significantly easier. He doesn't stop pushing forward until, after 2 relentless hours, not a single slime remains in sight. While the old man continues to look down on the adventurers entering the game, dismissing their way of thinking, Winter returns to him, now at level 3, with the cores of all the slain slimes in hand, proving his strength. Clearly impressed, the old man acknowledges Winter's intelligence, at least enough to clear out the slimes. Upon completing the mission, Winter gains 20 experience points. Noticing how much the old man underestimates the other adventurers, Winter decides to provoke him further. Feigning indifference, he shrugs off the mission as too easy and casually asks if there's something more difficult. Enraged by Winter's arrogance, The old man doesn't hesitate to answer. With a twisted grin, he assigns the next mission, one that is next to impossible. The task: hunt down the 10 demon gods. Winter is stunned. In his current state, there is no chance he could pull this off. The Tainhang continent is divided into light and dark factions, and the strongest beings of the dark faction are the legendary 10 demon gods. Hunting them down would earn a player the glory of a hero, elevating them to legendary status. The rewards for completing the mission are beyond imagination. The title of City Lord for a level 1 city, an abundance of equipment, an immense amount of gold coins, and most intriguingly, the old man's mysterious heirloom. Winter knows this mission is beyond his reach, but something about it piques his curiosity. What makes this mission truly dangerous isn't just its difficulty, it's the severe penalties for failure and the tight deadline. If Winter fails, the Light faction's reputation will drop by 100,000 points, and he'll be forced to pay a 10,000 gold coin fine to the old man. Even worse, he'll suffer a devastating level loss of 50. To make matters worse, the mission must be completed within a week. Seeing the shock and fear in Winter's eyes, the old man taunts him. With a smug grin, he asks if Winter overestimated himself, or if, in reality, he's just another piece of trash like all the other players. The insult hits its mark. Without a second thought, Winter accepts the mission on impulse, disregarding both the near-impossible challenge and the terrifying consequences. But before he commits, he sets one condition: the old man must hand over his mysterious heirloom first. The old man doesn't hesitate. Grinning eagerly, he hands it over, praising Winter for being a brave and intelligent hero. But deep down, he's laughing. The real trap isn't just the mission itself. If Winter fails, the massive reputation loss will turn the entire Light faction against him, marking him as a target for every player and NPC. And with the 10,000 gold coins he'll receive from Winter's failure, the old man is about to become very, very rich. Collecting the mysterious heirloom, a scroll, signifies Winter's acceptance of the mission. The moment he takes hold of it, his timer begins, reminding him that every second counts. The mysterious heirloom, known as the Wrath of the Fire God, is an SR-tier object. It's a one-time, use scroll imbued with a low-tier forbidden fire spell. Once torn, it unleashes an AoE attack with a 200-meter radius, dealing a devastating 5 million damage to all enemies within range. Wasting no time, Winter sets off on his mission with everything he's got. His first encounter is with a level 5 Grey Wolf, a beast with 1,000 HP. Confident, he attacks, handling it as he would any ordinary monster. However, before he can finish it off, the wolf hauls for its pack. Despite the sudden ambush, Winter eliminates the wolves and gains 80 experience points, pushing him up to level 4. His HP increases by 100, and both his defense and strike power rise by 1 point. However, the loot is disappointing. All the wolf's corpse leaves behind is 3 bronze coins. At this rate, he's still far from being able to repay Kaido, and even further from completing his mission. Taking a moment to assess the situation, Winter realizes the harsh reality. Even killing one demon god within a week seems utterly impossible. With no sign of success in sight, Winter begins to consider abandoning his account and restarting the game. However, just as the thought crosses his mind, a system prompt appears, delivering a brutal reality check. Since he signed a contract with a 10,000 gold coin penalty, abandoning his account would require him to compensate the amount in real-life money. At the current exchange rate of $600 per gold coin, that would translate to a staggering 6 million debt. In the real world, as a fresh graduate, the best job he could land would pay around $8,000 per month. To repay that kind of debt, it would take him a lifetime. The realization hits hard. Restarting is no longer an option. His only choice is to survive, keep a low profile, and grow stronger. After all, 10,000 gold coins isn't an impossible amount to earn. Determined to push forward, he soon encounters another lone wolf, separated from its pack. Seizing the opportunity, he launches an attack. Just as he lands the finishing blow, the wolf lets out a piercing cry, summoning the rest of its pack. The battle drags on for 2 hours, with Winter fighting relentlessly. By the time the last wolf falls, he has leveled up to level 7, making massive progress in his strength. This time luck is on his side. A piece of equipment drops, a wolf skin wrist guard, which grants him an additional 2 points to his defensive power. It's a small upgrade, but in a game where every advantage matters, Winter takes it. Winter's euphoria is short-lived when he suddenly comes face to face with the demonic wolf king of bronze, tier boss with a staggering 25,000 HP. Once an ordinary wolf, it had the misfortune of encountering a necromancer who twisted it into a monstrous beast, infused with forbidden magic. Now, it serves as the necromancer's loyal guard dog, mercilessly slaughtering any outsider who dares approach. Winter quickly assesses the situation. At his current level, fighting this boss is suicidal. Though his attacks are just strong enough to chip away at its defense, the smarter choice would be to level up first and return later. That would be the logical, sane response. But nothing about his situation is sane. Winter understands that if he wants to break free from this impossible mission, he can't afford to play it safe. He'll have to take risks, seizing opportunities where others wouldn't dare. And right now, the opportunity is that no other players are around. Without hesitation, he charges at the demonic wolf king, drawing its attention, a terrible mistake. His attack barely scratches it, dealing a pathetic 9 points of damage. The beast's glowing red eyes lock onto him, and in an instant, it lunges. Winter barely manages to dodge at the last second, but the reality is clear: one hit from this monster would end him instantly. A smaller wolf suddenly bites Winter's leg, dealing minor damage. Annoyed, Winter grabs it by the neck, intending to finish it off, until he notices something unusual. The demonic wolf king hesitates. For the first time, Winter sees concern in the boss monster's eyes. It won't harm one of its own, a weakness. Seizing the advantage, Winter uses the small wolf as a shield, striking the demonic wolf king repeatedly while it holds back. The battle drags on, his attacks slowly chipping away at the boss's HP. 2 hours later, the demonic wolf king finally snaps. With half its HP gone, it lets out a thunderous roar, signaling a phase transformation. Winter watches in dread as the wolf's body begins to shift, dark energy surging around it. The beast activates 2 powerful skills, Bloodlust and Wolf King Aura. Phases in Eternity are designed by the game officials, allowing monsters to evolve mid-battle into even stronger forms. Even ordinary monsters can undergo multiple phase advancements, but leader monsters like the demonic Wolf King have an even higher chance of evolving. With this transformation, Winter realizes the fight just became far worse than he imagined. The new phase grants the wolf a deadly passive effect, causing 2% of Winter's HP to drain every minute. If he drags this fight out, he won't survive. Then, without warning, the demonic wolf king lunges forward, activating another skill, Ripping Claw. Before Winter can react, the small wolf is ripped apart. For a brief moment, the demonic wolf king lowers its head, mourning its fallen kin. But when it looks back at Winter, its glowing red eyes burn with rage. For 5 whole seconds, the demonic wolf king stood frozen, unable to move. Winter didn't waste a single moment. He unleashed everything he had, striking the boss repeatedly and dealing as much damage as possible before the stun wore off. But the moment the paralysis ended, the wolf let out an enraged snarl and slashed at him with terrifying speed. 1 strike, that was all it took. Winter barely registered the attack before his HP plummeted to near 0. 1 more hit, and he was dead. Realizing he had no chance in a direct fight, he switched his strategy: a battle of distance and speed. With Wolf King's aura still active, the boss's movement speed was reduced, giving Winter a slim window of survival. But Bloodlust was a different problem. Its sheer power was overwhelming. Watching the demonic Wolf King's relentless pursuit, Winter questioned whether this was truly a battle of attrition, or simply a delayed death sentence. 1 mistake, 1 wrong move. That was all it would take for him to be erased instantly. In that moment, a memory flashed in his mind: the basic sword skill. Clutching his sword tightly, Winter took a deep breath and adjusted his stance. Every movement mattered, every second counted, and with precise, calculated strikes, he persisted, dodging, slashing, evading till finally the beast let out a final, deafening howl. The demonic Wolf King collapsed. Winter had won. For defeating a bronze-tier boss, he received 2,000 experience points and 500 reputation points. But more than that, he was the first player in the entire game to ever take down a bronze-level boss. Because of this achievement, he leveled up to level 10, gaining 10 attribute points of his choice, an additional 1,000 reputation points, and a rare object, the Blessing Orb. Exhausted but victorious, Winter stood over the fallen beast, knowing this was only the beginning. A system prompt suddenly appeared, asking if Winter would like to announce his glorious victory to all the adventurers who had descended into the Tianhang continent. The message also stated that making the announcement would grant him 100,000 reputation points. Without hesitation, Winter agreed. In an instant, his name spread across the entire continent. Some players were left in shock, unable to believe someone had already defeated a bronze-tier boss. Others were in awe at his insane mission speed. Friend requests poured in from every direction, but Winter had no time for them. He had bigger problems. As he proceeded, his path was suddenly blocked. Standing before him was the progenitor of the demonic Wolf King, the Necromancer. The cloaked figure introduced himself, his voice dripping with malice. He was one of the Dark Gold-tier powerhouses of the continent, just a step away from reaching the Spirit tier. His mission was simple: retribution. "You killed my puppet," the Necromancer sneered. "Say your last words." Winter knew he couldn't fight someone this strong. Instead, he stalled for time. With a smirk, he mocked the Necromancer, questioning why such a powerful entity was lurking around a lowly beginner village. His words struck a nerve. The Necromancer's expression darkened, the insult forcing him to reveal the truth. He wasn't at his peak condition. That didn't mean he wasn't still strong enough to kill an adventurer, though. Winter had no intention of dying here. Buying himself a few more seconds, he requested to view the Necromancer's information page. If he could analyze his stats, he might just figure out if the old man's scroll, Wrath of the Fire God, would be enough to turn the tide. The Necromancer quickly caught on to Winter's attempt to analyze his stats and refused outright. But Winter had already made up his mind. He was going to risk it. Even if the Wrath of the Fire God scroll was powerful enough to kill the Necromancer, there was a chance it could kill him too. In his current weakened state, the Necromancer might not be able to withstand the spell, but Winter wasn't certain if he could survive it either. Neither of them wanted to gamble. Instead, they negotiated, ultimately reaching an unconventional deal. Winter would receive equipment from the Necromancer, and in exchange, the Necromancer would walk free. But the game's rules wouldn't allow such an easy trade. The only way to seal the agreement was for Winter to betray the Light faction and join the Dark faction. The Necromancer extended an offer: if Winter became his disciple, he would teach him everything he knew at the Dark Gold tier level. The perks of crossing over were tempting: power, knowledge, a path beyond what any other adventurer had access to. Without hesitation, Winter agreed. Dark energy engulfed him, twisting his body. His appearance shifted, transforming him into a warped, evil version of himself. The Necromancer, satisfied, cast a spell that allowed Winter to revert to his human form for 3 days. He explained that, in time, once Winter became strong enough to control his dark aura, he would be able to shift between forms unassisted. His next mission was clear: prove his loyalty to the Dark faction. To do that, he had to kill 100 adventurers from the Light faction or native inhabitants of the continent. The Necromancer, still heavily injured, planned to use the next 3 days to recuperate, expecting Winter to complete the mission before then. Winter had just stepped into darkness. Now, he had to decide how far he was willing to go. As Winter set out on his mission, he ran into a proud group of adventurers, one that needed to be put in their place, and he made sure to record every second of it. That's when he realized something incredible. After switching to a hidden role, his stats were on a completely different level compared to normal players. His strength, speed, and abilities were simply incomparable. The fight was over in moments. He wiped the floor with them. With his task complete, he headed back to the village to sell off his equipment. As he walked through the bustling streets, he was met with a flood of friend requests, players trying to align themselves with someone as powerful as him. But Winter had bigger things to do. Logging out, he uploaded his battle footage online, exposing his overwhelming power. The video went viral, and soon, the Assembly of Heroes, a prestigious adventurer guild, became the laughingstock of the community. The backlash was brutal. Humiliated, the Assembly of Heroes refused to let the insult go unanswered. They mobilized, coming after Winter with full force, ready to crush him for good. But as they charged toward him in masses, all Winter saw was a massive pile of experience points waiting to be collected. The battle began. It wasn't even a fight, it was a one-sided massacre. The battle began. It wasn't even a fight, it was a one-sided massacre. Winter effortlessly tore through every adventurer who came at him, treating the battle as nothing more than a chance to grind XP. They tried everything: sheer numbers, strategic attacks, a war of attrition. Nothing worked. Whenever his HP dropped dangerously low, he leveled up, instantly restoring his health. Each level gained made him stronger, and the adventurers, who had once been so confident in their numbers, began to lose heart. One by one, they realized the truth. They never stood a chance. In the long run, the adventurers realized that no reward was worth dying for. One by one they fled, leaving the Assembly of Heroes humiliated and broken. Winter, unfazed, checked his status. His level of evil remained at 0, but his mission was marked as complete. Just then, a system prompt appeared, urging him to hurry to his master's aid. Sensing trouble, Winter rushed to the location, only to be met with a shocking sight. The one opposing the necromancer, his own mentor, was none other than the old man from the Light faction. The very same quest giver who had given him the Wrath of the Fire God's scroll. The old man's eyes blazed with fury as he turned to Winter, shocked and enraged at seeing him on the dark side. Wasting no time, he prepared to strike, declaring his intent to eradicate the necromancer and bring Winter back to the Light faction's church. The irony wasn't lost on Winter. At that moment, the necromancer officially issued his plea for assistance, turning Winter's intervention into an official Dark faction mission. Without hesitation, Winter activated the scroll, the very one given to him by the old man, and used it against him. The Forbidden Fire spell erupted, buying just enough time for Winter and the necromancer to escape. With teleportation magic, they vanished from Novus Village before reinforcements could arrive. As the flames died down, a broadcast message was sent across the entire Light faction. A LRT adventurer, Winter River, has betrayed the Light faction and sworn allegiance to the nefarious Dark faction. All Light faction members are urged to hunt him down. Meanwhile, Winter and his necromancer mentor, Daniel, finally arrived in the Plain of Gales. Still recovering from his wounds, Daniel turned to Winter with a rare smile, expressing his gratitude for the rescue. Winter exhaled sharply, knowing full well that his true journey had just begun. The notification didn't stop there. It promised generous rewards for anyone who successfully hunted Winter down, including rare equipment and an exclusive hidden role. Winter quickly realized the severity of the situation. With such enticing rewards on the table, he had just become a prime target for every adventurer in the Light faction. As if that wasn't bad enough, the system sent another reminder. Since he had left Novus Village, he had officially broken his contract with Kaido. That meant not only Kaido but every inhabitant of Novus Village would now hunt him down for revenge. And there was more. Because he had helped Daniel confront Pyromancer Brandy, he had failed his original mission to hunt the 10 demon gods. As a result, the system imposed the mission's failure penalty, 10,000 gold coins. Panicked, Winter checked his inventory. Every last coin was gone. Even the few bronze coins he had collected were erased, leaving him with absolutely nothing. Feeling the weight of his severe losses, Winter grabbed onto Daniel, his frustration boiling over. "I just lost everything because I saved you," he complained. "You better give me my reward." Daniel let out a chuckle, unfazed. "Since you chose to save me, I wouldn't mistreat you," he assured him. "And as my disciple, I certainly wouldn't deceive you either." A system notification suddenly appeared. "You have received 100,000 XP. You have obtained an S-rank rare talent Evil Trampling." Winter felt his strength surge. His level jumped instantly, advancing to level 14. Though he had lost much, he had also gained something far greater. Evil Trampling was a technique only those with inherent evil power could master. Once unleashed, it delivered a double blow, one to the enemy's body and the other to their dignity. The technique was renowned throughout Tianhang, not for its damage, but for its humiliating effects. Winter frowned as he reviewed the description. It didn't seem that impressive. The talent wasn't a heavy damage skill, and in a game where power was everything, he wasn't sure how useful humiliating enemies would be. Sensing his doubt, Daniel chuckled. "This technique has been lost to time," he explained. "I stumbled upon it by chance in the crypt of a powerful figure. But since I'm a mage, and not physically strong enough to wield it properly, I've simply kept it with me all this time. You just happen to be fortunate enough to inherit it." Still skeptical, Winter folded his arms. "But if the skill doesn't include weapon bonuses, doesn't that mean its damage output will be too low?" Daniel shook his head. "You don't understand its true value." He sighed, clearly aware that Winter wasn't convinced. "Many people would kill to inherit this talent, and yet here you are, doubting its worth." Winter paused, considering his words. Maybe he was being too quick to judge. Still, his instincts told him there had to be more rewards. Eagerly, he turned back to Daniel. "All right, I'll take it. But what else do I get?" Daniel's eyebrow twitched. "You just inherited a legendary S-rank talent, and you're already asking for more." He scoffed, shaking his head. "Don't be too greedy, kid." But even as he chastised Winter, Daniel understood. Winter felt like he had lost more than he had gained. After all, he had traded a one-time, used forbidden spell scroll for an ancient skill that wouldn't even boost his direct attack power. From Winter's perspective, it didn't seem like a fair deal. Winter let out a sly chuckle, shaking his head. "I don't feel like I've missed out," he admitted. "I just want to grow faster." Daniel smirked at his ambition but offered a word of caution. "If you want to grow quickly, then you need to train. Equipment alone won't be enough." With that, Daniel suggested they move forward. The Plain of Gales, where they had arrived, was neutral ground, neither under the Light faction's control, nor fully governed by the Dark faction. However, there were places within it that held the influence of greater powers. "I'll take you somewhere," Daniel said. "A place under the protection of a demon god." Winter's curiosity piqued instantly. "Protection?" he asked. "What kind of protection are we talking about?" Daniel didn't answer right away. Instead, he glanced around cautiously before saying, "I'll explain later. Right now, I'm too weak to offer you that kind of protection. Let's get to a safe location first." After an hour of travel, they finally reached a barren land, its cracked terrain stretching endlessly under a dim sky. Daniel exhaled in relief, rolling his shoulders as his body pulsed with dark energy. "My wounds are almost healed," he informed Winter. "Rest for 2 days, you'll need it." Tossing Winter a small vial of healing elixir, he continued, "The monsters in this area aren't too powerful, but they'll be good enough to help you sharpen your skills." Without hesitation, Winter ventured deeper into the barren lands, determined to train. It wasn't long before he encountered his first challenge, a pack of demonic lizards. Scanning their stats, he quickly realized a harsh truth. These creatures were far stronger than he expected. Their attack and defense stats were 3 times higher than a level 12 demonic wolf. This wasn't going to be easy. Despite the overwhelming stats of the demonic lizards, Winter felt confident in his own growth. As long as he avoided getting surrounded, he believed he could handle them. Without hesitation, he charged at one, activating Evil Trampling. His strike landed cleanly, dealing 169 points of damage and stunning the creature for 2 seconds. Seizing the opening, Winter followed up with Frenzied Killing, overwhelming the lizard completely. Just as he finished it off, another lizard bit into him, its sharp fangs digging into his side. However, the attack barely fazed him. Compared to his strength when he first left Novus Village, this damage was insignificant. Without wasting time, he dispatched the second lizard, earning additional XP. He continued his relentless assault, cutting down every lizard in sight until the entire area was cleared. As he picked up silver and bronze coins from the fallen monsters, his communication crystal lit up, a call from 10,000 miles, a player he had exchanged contact information with back in the village. Answering the call, Winter heard a familiar chuckle. "You've been making quite a name for yourself," 10,000 miles said. "The forums are exploding with strategies on how to take you down." Winter smirked unfazed. He expected as much. Then 10,000 miles dropped an unexpected question. You want to sell your character? Winter froze. At first, he thought 10,000 miles was proposing a secret deal, one where Winter would let himself be killed, allowing 10,000 miles to claim the bounty, and then they'd split the rewards. But then he realized the truth. If he agreed, it wouldn't be just a temporary death. Without the goddess's protection, losing his account meant losing everything permanently. Winter immediately refused the offer. But then, 10,000 miles made a counteroffer. 20 million. Winter froze. $20 million. For an account that was still early in the game, the amount was ridiculous, more than enough to set him up for life. Even if his character were to be permanently destroyed, 20 million would let him live in luxury, reaching the very pinnacle of success. For a brief moment, he considered it. Had it not been for the exponential power growth of the Dark Swordsman, he might have been tempted. He knew better than anyone how broken his class was becoming. Selling now would mean giving up on limitless potential. Yes, 20 million was life-changing money, but power was something even money couldn't buy. Finally, Winter let out a short laugh and responded, "I'm not selling." 10,000 miles pressed further, but Winter explained his reasoning. It wasn't just about losing the account. The punishment for death was far more severe than simply losing a level. More importantly, there was the bounty placed on his head. If I take the deal and something goes wrong, Winter reasoned, people will come after me non-stop, and once I'm dead I lose everything. Silence. After a moment, Winter reassured 10,000 miles. Don't worry about it. There's a reason my bounty is so high. The call ended, and Winter smirked to himself. Money was tempting, but absolute power, that was priceless. Despite 10,000 miles' persistence, Winter remained firm in his decision. Eventually, 10,000 miles sighed in defeat. "Fine," he said. "Enjoy the game then." Before ending the call, Winter casually mentioned that he still had some equipment for sale and asked if 10,000 miles was interested in buying. After a brief pause, 10,000 miles responded, "I'll take everything for 30,000. Winter agreed instantly. Next, 10,000 miles inquired about Winter's location, so he could send someone to collect the items. Winter instructed him to send a sneaky thief to the wasteland, where he would personally guide them to the location. However, he made one thing clear: he would only hand over the items after receiving payment first. With the deal set, the call ended. Winter, eager to make the most of his time, continued hunting demonic lizards while waiting for the thief's arrival. After slaughtering another wave of lizards, he leveled up to 15. The moment he did, a strange sensation surged through his body. His muscles tightened, his breathing became heavier, and a dark aura flared around him. For a moment he wondered, was he evolving? Just then, a system notification appeared, "Ding. Upon reaching level 15, the true power of the Dark Swordsman has been awakened. You have obtained a new ability, the power of death." And Winter quickly checked the details. This new talent allowed him to regenerate 5% of his HP per second while out of combat. However, during combat, the effect was reduced to 2.1% per second. Doing a quick calculation, Winter's eyes widened. 30% HP regeneration per minute. A wicked grin spread across his face. With this, his survivability had just skyrocketed. If faced with an unwinnable battle, Winter now had a tactical advantage. He could simply retreat, regenerate, and return to finish the fight. 4 minutes later, 10,000 miles contacted him again. "The money's been transferred," he confirmed. "Also, if you ever have more equipment to sell, my guild will always offer you fair prices. Keep that in mind." Winter acknowledged the offer before ending the call and returning to farming lizards. An hour passed, and he had only managed to eliminate 93 out of 500. The grind felt endless. But just when his patience started to wear thin, a notification popped up. Equipment drop bronze. Tier item, sandy boots. Winter quickly inspected them. The stats were impressive, but there was one problem. The required level to equip them was 16. With no other choice, he decided to keep farming lizards until he leveled up. Just as he was about to resume the grind, his parents called him for dinner. Annoyed but with no choice, he logged off. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the game, a meeting was taking place. 2. A high-ranking guild leader sat in silence as his secretary nervously reported the failed attack on Winter. The secretary bowed his head. It's my fault. I wasn't able to direct them properly. Tu, however, remained calm. Don't worry about it, he said, his voice cold. The bounty hunters are nothing but scattered solo players. There was no way they'd all listen to a single command. His expression darkened. But mark my words, Winter River will pay for his disrespect. Leaning back in his chair, he smirked. Hey, as long as he keeps playing, there will never be a shortage of people hunting him down. After dinner, Winter logged back into the game, but he was immediately ambushed. A demonic lizard lunged at him, striking with its powerful tail before he could even react. Winter instinctively dodged and prepared to counterattack, but as he got a closer look at its status bar, his eyes narrowed. This wasn't a normal enemy. It was a bronze-ranked king demonic lizard, a boss. A wicked grin spread across Winter's face. This was perfect. Without hesitation, he charged forward, activating Evil Trampling. His attack landed, but the damage was underwhelming, barely making a dent in the lizard's massive HP pool. The only upside was that the stun lasted for 35 seconds. Unfortunately, the boss wasn't helpless during that time. Its skin pulsed with venom, and before Winter could pull away, a notification appeared. You have been afflicted by poisonous skin. HP will decrease by 50 points per second for 10 seconds. Winter cursed under his breath, but reacted swiftly. He grabbed the healing elixir Daniel had given him and downed it in one gulp, feeling his health stabilize. Refusing to back down, he continued his relentless assault. The battle dragged on as he dodged, countered, and pressed forward. Finally, after an intense exchange, Winter managed to sever the lizard's tail, weakening it significantly. With its movement compromised, he delivered the final blow, watching as the bronze-ranked boss collapsed. The moment it died, a shower of rewards appeared. Winter's eyes widened in amazement. The lizard had dropped piles of bronze and silver coins along with rare equipment. Among the loot, Winter acquired a bronze-tier yellow stone armor, a durable suit that granted camouflage in the desert. Among the loot, Winter acquired a bronze-tier yellow stone armor, a durable suit that granted camouflage in the desert, perfect for ambush tactics. He also obtained a demon stone staff, a basic yet surprisingly powerful weapon. Despite being impressed with the armor's stats and unique abilities, Winter sighed as he read the requirements. A minimum level required 21. He wasn't there yet, but he would be soon. Moreover, he couldn't even use the staff since it was a mage-exclusive weapon. Without wasting time, Winter contacted 10,000 Miles to see if he was interested in buying it. After a brief pause, 10,000 Miles responded with a sigh. No one in my guild meets the level requirement yet, he admitted. Winter, unwilling to give up so easily, pushed back. You'll need it eventually, he reasoned. A staff with these stats isn't something you come across every day. 10,000 Miles considered it for a moment before making an offer. I'll give you 50,000. Winter raised an eyebrow. For an item of this quality. It's early game equipment? 10,000 Miles explained. Its value will drop fast as players start finding better gear. Winter thought it over before accepting the deal. The transaction finalized, and Winter grinned. In just a few days, he had earned over 100,000, and this was only the beginning. The game still had endless untapped potential, and Winter was determined to capitalize on all of it. Shifting his focus back to his mission, he continued grinding lizards, knowing he was close to completion. After pushing forward for a while longer, he finally reached level 16, allowing him to equip the boots he had obtained earlier. Satisfied with his progress, he logged out of Eternity. At that moment, his stomach growled. Just as he was about to order food online, his phone buzzed with a message. It was from his friend, Kai. Kayo, BBQ hangout tonight. You in? Winter smirked. A break wouldn't hurt. Wang Kai had been Han's friend since their university days. They had initially met through a video game, and their shared passion for gaming had kept them close even after graduation. Upon arriving at their usual BBQ spot, Han and Kai exchanged greetings before Kai jumped straight to the point. I've got a job offer for you, he said. Han raised an eyebrow. What kind of job? A professional player position, Kai replied. With your skill set, it'd be a waste not to go pro. Han leaned back, listening as Kai continued. I work for a gaming studio, and we're gearing up for something big, a breakthrough in the industry. He took a sip of his drink before adding, I can connect you with them so you can collaborate. To Kai's surprise, Han shook his head. I'll pass. Kai frowned. What? Are you worried about sabotage? Han's refusal made Kai pause, wondering if his friend was holding back out of caution. I get it, Kai said, leaning in slightly. But you know me, I wouldn't screw you over. He then listed the benefits: high pay, insurance, pension, a stable and comfortable future. With your skill, you could easily earn 10,000 a month minimum. But Han simply smirked. I appreciate it, but I'd rather work on my own. For a moment, Kai studied his expression. Then, with a knowing nod, he realized the truth. Han had chosen to pursue the game on his own terms, and nothing was going to change his mind. Han leaned back in his chair, a small smirk on his lips. Eternity's virtual reality is so immersive, he said, that people call it a second world. Once you experience it, it's impossible to resist. Kai chuckled. Sounds like you're hooked. He then pulled out his phone. Alright, what's your username? I'll add you. Han's smirk faded slightly. It's a secret. Kai raised an eyebrow. Why so secretive? Wait, don't tell me you're being hunted in the game. Han didn't confirm or deny it. He just shrugged. Kai laughed, shaking his head. Fine. Keep your secrets. But let me tell you something interesting. Leaning in slightly, Kai lowered his voice. There's a rumor going around. Apparently, if a player reaches a certain power level in Eternity, they gain access to a secret realm. Han's interest was piqued. A secret realm? What's in it? No one knows for sure, Kai admitted. But it seems to be linked to a player's talent. The game's authorities favor using tests to unlock a player's true potential rather than relying on pure luck. Han narrowed his eyes. And where exactly did you hear this? Kai leaned back with a smug grin. Let's just say it's plausible because I'm in a high-level studio. We hear things. Han absorbed the information, filing it away for later. Kai stretched and stood up. Anyway, I gotta get back to work. They exchanged farewells, and as Kai departed, Han logged back into the game. As Winter reappeared, Daniel was already waiting. The necromancer turned to him, eyebrow raised in surprise. You actually finished the mission this quickly. Winter smirked. Did you expect anything less? Winter crossed his arms. Alright, I completed the mission. Where's my reward? Daniel chuckled. Relax. I'd never mistreat my own disciple. He placed a hand on Winter's forehead, and a surge of energy coursed through his body. Ding. You have leveled up to 17. Winter felt his strength rise instantly. But Daniel wasn't done yet. Reaching into his robes, he pulled out a silver tier item and handed it over. You have received storage ring. Teen Winter examined it. The storage ring granted a storage capacity of 20 slots, a huge upgrade compared to his current inventory limit. Satisfied, Winter pocketed the ring before turning back to Daniel. I have another question. Daniel raised an eyebrow. Go on. What do you know about Adventure's talents? Daniel blinked in surprise. You're already asking about talents. He paused, then smirked. Well, I suppose it makes sense. You only joined a few days ago and haven't acquired one yet. Winter narrowed his eyes. Be more specific. Daniel leaned back, his tone turning serious. When you become as strong as the original inhabitants of this world, you'll gain access to a special secret realm. There, you'll undergo a trial. If you pass, you'll have exactly 60 minutes to select your talent. Winter frowned. Only 60 minutes, that's it. Daniel nodded. Talents are like balloons, each a different color. You'll have to choose wisely, because once you pick one, you leave immediately. Winter's eyes narrowed. A 1-hour time limit to make such a crucial decision. The pressure just got real. Daniel concurred, noting that 60 minutes wasn't much time, especially considering that most of the talents Winter might encounter would be ordinary, typically D or C rank. To illustrate, Daniel revealed his own C rank ability, Medicinal Mania, which slightly enhanced his chances of successfully creating medicine. He then mentioned a talent within the Sword of God, a warrior from the Light faction, called Sword Heart, which boosted the user's final damage output by 80%. When Winter inquired about its rank, Daniel informed him that it was SS rank, one of the highest in Tianhang. Wondering if there was a rank above SS, Winter was assured that there wasn't. Daniel explained that across the entire continent, Very few individuals possessed SS-rank talents. However, he advised Winter not to dwell on this, emphasizing that the S-rank skill he had already received was more than sufficient. Winter then asked about the criteria for being considered a standard inhabitant of the world. Daniel responded that it was silver tier, but highlighted a more significant factor: the variation in entry requirements for the secret realm. While some gained access at level 20, others required level 30 or higher. He assured Winter that the rest would become clear once he grew stronger, then proceeded to grant him the demon god's protection. Winter felt a mix of anxiety and excitement as he anticipated the true power of the demon god's protection. The fact that it could replace an adventurer's revival ability meant it had to be something extraordinary. The moment Daniel blessed him with the protection, a massive surge of dark energy coursed through Winter's body. His form began to shift once again, as a powerful evil aura flooded through him. A system notification appeared. You have now obtained the ability to gain titles. At first, Winter wondered if that was all there was to it. But then, another notification popped up. Bar title acquired. The Fallen effect, all HP gained in the future will be doubled. The realization hit him immediately. He now understood why bosses in Eternity had such ridiculously high HP pools. Unlike players, who could revive indefinitely and continue leveling up, bosses needed immense durability to balance the game. The Dark Faction's difficulty wasn't just for immersion, it was to ensure true balance between adventurers and the world's original inhabitants. However, Winter was an exception. Unlike the native bosses of Tianhang, he was still an adventurer at his core. He could grow stronger at an accelerated rate, just like any other player, while also possessing the endurance and resilience of a boss, a unique existence, one that defied the game's natural order. Winter smirked. The true power of the Dark Faction was finally beginning to unfold before him. When Daniel inquired about how it felt to be under the demon god's protection and whether he was shocked, Winter admitted to being slightly surprised. However, instead of dwelling on it, he promptly asked Daniel where they should go next. As standing out in the open wasn't ideal, Daniel responded that his wounds had fully healed, meaning there was no longer any need to hide. Without hesitation, he led Winter to their next destination, the City of Darkness. This city, once known as the City of Light, had originally belonged to the Light Faction before it was forcibly converted into Dark Faction territory under the rule of the 10 great demon gods. However, the Light Faction had never given up on reclaiming it, leading to a long-standing war that continued to this day. Upon arrival at the city gates, Winter was met with an unexpected sight. The guards bowed in respect and welcomed Daniel as the city's leader. Winter was stunned. He hadn't realized that Daniel held such a prestigious position. Sensing his surprise, Daniel admitted that he had only held the title for a few months and didn't know many people yet. However, it was precisely because of his position as city head and his growing strength that he had been able to break through to the spirit tier. As they stepped inside the city, Daniel introduced Winter to the deputy city head, an undead knight named Canner. The moment Canner saw Daniel, he immediately knelt in respect. However, Daniel told him not to be so formal and expressed his gratitude for all the help Canner had provided in managing the city. Winter watched the exchange carefully. It was becoming increasingly clear. The Dark Faction was far more structured than he had imagined. Canner praised Winter, noting that he had immense potential and that the evil aura surrounding him was truly fearsome. As they arrived at the mansion, Winter turned to Daniel and asked if he wasn't concerned about the city's proximity to the Light Faction stronghold. Daniel merely laughed, dismissing the concern. As a necromancer, he claimed that death wasn't something to be feared. He then went on to explain that necromancers didn't inherently belong to the Dark Faction. In fact, the Dark Faction's elite often kept a cautious eye on them, weary of another undead outbreak in Tianhang. The undead were feared and avoided by all living beings, making necromancers a faction of their own. Daniel acknowledged that he could very well be killed someday, but before that happened, he intended to use his position to offer Winter as many advantages as possible. While he couldn't hand over equipment or tools for free, He reassured Winter that he had other ways to assist him. With that, he assigned Winter a mission. New task: exterminate the wild rats. A difficulty: the city's skeleton soldiers had been repeatedly attacked during their patrols, and Winter was tasked with eliminating the source of the problem. The rats weren't just a nuisance, something had been driving them to attack. Finding the root cause was just as important as wiping them out. Winter smirked. His next challenge had begun. Tasked with eliminating 500 demonic wild rats, Winter stood at a loss, unsure of where to begin. He approached a skeleton soldier and inquired about the rat's whereabouts. However, the soldier took offense, snapping at Winter for failing to recognize that she was female. Unfazed, Winter retorted that it was difficult to determine gender in walking bones. Despite the brief tension, the skeleton relented and revealed the northern side of the City of Darkness was overrun with demonic wild rats, which often burrowed into the bodies of skeletons during their patrols. Following the directions, Winter soon found himself in front of a large gathering of the creatures. The rats were level 22 adversaries, far stronger than they initially appeared. Winter quickly realized that drawing the aggro of even one rat could summon hundreds in an instant, turning the entire horde against him. Before he could act, something unexpected happened. The rats abruptly turned tail and fled, not out of strategy, but out of fear. The sinister aura emanating from Winter's body repelled them instinctively, their tiny bodies trembling in his presence. But Winter couldn't afford to let them escape. The mission required him to wipe out every last one. Without hesitation, he activated his evil abilities, preparing to demonstrate why his name was quickly becoming a symbol of fear. With precision and efficiency, Winter unleashed frenzied killing, swiftly cutting down the demonic wild rats before they could retaliate. Their numbers dwindled, leaving him with little resistance as he continued the hunt. 2 hours later, his eyes landed on a dropped item. Equipment acquired: black iron wrist guards at a well-crafted piece made by a third-tier town's blacksmith. This equipment was something normal adventurers couldn't afford. However, the required level 20 meant it would have to wait for now. Just as he stouted away, a system notification appeared. Player God's Forbidden Zone has acquired the B-rank talent Agility and received additional rewards as the first adventurer to do so. Winter paused, caught off guard. This revelation confirmed the fierce competition within Eternity. Players were progressing rapidly, securing advantages before others could. Before he could dwell on it, another notification interrupted his thoughts. Evoir NNG. Your extermination of the demonic wild rats has provoked the wrath of a formidable adversary, Silver Tier Boss the Demonic Rat King. Winter tensed. Unlike ordinary rats, the Demonic Rat King was an anomaly, its level unknown. Mutated by prolonged exposure to a potent source of demonic aura, it had developed abilities far beyond its kind. Normally hidden, it had no reason to emerge. Yet Winter had forced its hand, a deep, guttural growl echoed in the distance. Something was coming. Its looming presence posed a daunting challenge for any adventurer reckless enough to cross its path. Towering at a size comparable to 3 beers, the Demonic Rat King glared at Winter with ferocious intent. Despite its intimidating appearance, Winter quickly noted that its defensive capabilities weren't overwhelming. However, its offensive power was another story entirely off the charts. The full extent of its level and talents remained unknown, but Winter had no doubt they far exceeded his own. Yet, he refused to let another adventurer claim the glory of slaying a silver-tier boss. Without hesitation, he activated Evil Trampling, momentarily stunning the beast and granting himself a brief window to strategize. The Rat King's counterattack came swiftly, and the sheer magnitude of its power was a harsh reminder of the battle's deadly stakes. Winter knew that without his title's bonus HP, he would have been utterly outmatched. The battle raged on, hour after grueling hour. Despite exhaustion creeping in, Winter remained locked in combat, his mind sharp as he anticipated the inevitable escalation. The true test of his mettle was yet to come. The Demonic Rat King let out a piercing screech, summoning countless minion rats from the shadows. But the moment they laid eyes on Winter, they scattered in terror. Seeing this, The Turret King made a choice. Turret turned and fled as well. Winter refused to let it escape. Charging forward with his sword drawn, he pursued the weakened boss, whose HP bar had reached critical levels. The chase led him into a dark cavern, where a sudden wave of power washed over him. Something was here. Scanning the area, his gaze locked onto a glowing purple electric gem, pulsing with energy. As he stepped closer, the surging aura enveloped him, sending a shockwave through his body. Bathed in its radiant glow, he felt an explosion of power, the latent evil energy within him surging to new heights. A notification appeared. Your stats have been temporarily amplified by an astonishing 80%. Winter didn't hesitate. With his newfound strength, he launched a relentless assault on the demonic Rat King, striking with overwhelming force. Each decisive blow pushed the beast further toward defeat, until finally with one last strike, Winter vanquished the formidable foe. As the echoes of battle faded, a wave of accomplishment washed over him. Then, a chorus of notifications appeared. Congratulations. You have defeated the silver tier boss, Demonic Rat King. You have received $80 in EXP here. You have leveled up to 19. Winter smirked. Another victory. Another step toward absolute power. In addition to the coveted accolades, Winter was granted bonus rewards, including increased reputation points and additional stat allocations. However, the true highlight of his spoils was the rare and enigmatic artifact, the Power of Favors. This artifact, a product of the wild, held a strength possessed only by gods and was considered precious beyond measure. In this world, only a fortunate few, blessed by fate, could wield such power. Filled with anticipation, Winter eagerly examined the mysterious relic, intrigued by its potential. If it truly possessed the ability to elevate lower-tier skills to new heights, then its value was immeasurable. The mere prospect of enhancing his abilities filled him with excitement, fueling his next decision to announce his victory to all of Tianhang. The promise of a massive reputation boost only added to his eagerness. Without hesitation, Winter made the public announcement. As his triumph echoed across the continent, reactions poured in: shock, envy, disbelief. But Winter basked in the recognition of his prowess. His name now commanded respect, and his reputation as a rising force was cemented among his peers. Yet, even amid the frenzy of attention, Winter's focus shifted elsewhere, toward the impending talent trial. An opportunity filled with new challenges and untold rewards lay ahead, and Winter had no intention of letting it slip away. With only 3 minutes remaining until the talent trial commenced, Winter steadied himself, mentally preparing for the challenge ahead. He was eager to prove himself once again, knowing this was a crucial step toward greater power. Although luck played a role in obtaining a talent, the trial was the only way for players to raise the rank of their abilities. He recalled Daniel's words: items and equipment couldn't be used inside the trial. However, there had been no mention of skills. This loophole gave Winter an idea. If he played it right, he could use the Power of Favors to push his talent potential to its peak and gain an unmatched advantage. A system prompt appeared, allowing him to select a skill to enhance. However, the Power of Favors had a restriction: only skills ranked B or lower could be upgraded. Without hesitation, Winter chose Dark Sword skill. A surge of power rippled through him as the skill underwent evolution. Dark Sword skill, whether the art of killing a rank. A dark skill had always been a passive ability exclusive to Dark Swordsmen, its true potential hidden beneath the surface. Even its appraised abilities had barely scratched the surface of its true power. But the art of killing was entirely different. An A-rank passive skill, it was a talent exclusive to swordsmen, and a force of devastation in Tianhang's history. Once it had drenched the continent in blood, its wielder's name shaking the world. Now it belonged to Winter, and he was about to unleash its potential. Only those who had killed countless enemies could truly internalize the devastating power of this elite skill. Previously, Dark Sword's skill, a passive ability, had simply boosted Winter's attack by 50 points. However, after evolving into the art of killing, that boost had quadrupled. Not only did it provide a flat attack increase, but it also removed the requirement of sword-like weapons, vastly expanding Winter's combat versatility. At present, his upper attack limit hovered around 200 points, meaning this passive boost had effectively doubled his total attack power. Shifting his attention to the purple electric gem, Winter reviewed its true function. This magical gemstone could temporarily awaken a person's hidden power. If a player possessed a large supply, their strength would increase exponentially, but if their reserves were too low, the enhancement would be greatly restricted. Its effect was simple: it amplified a person's power in proportion to their latent potential. However, the boost only lasted for 1 minute. Inspecting the gem further, Winter realized he had 2 out of 3 charges remaining. It had already been used once, most likely when he absorbed its energy during the battle. The realization frustrated him. If he could somehow carry this tenfold power boost into the talent trial, his success would be all but guaranteed. But there was no time to dwell on it. The 3-minute timer hit 0. A system notification flashed. Talent trial commencing now. Team Winter's vision blurred as he was transported into the unknown.